Hey there, Rabbit. It's Sunday, time for another hare snippet. This one's a little story about a situation I've ended up in a few times that took me a little while to learn or deepen my understanding of and navigate successfully. Or at least I believe I navigated successfully the last time. It's those situations, and some of you resonate with this, when you have a piece of information, you possess this information that's potentially quite helpful to somebody else's circumstances, but you cannot, under any of your own circumstances, and for important reasons, disclose that information to them, despite the fact that they may be directly asking you for it or fishing around for it. So the first time I encountered this, I spent about a week turning around in my head. Don't I say this about it or that, or how do I explain it? Should I? You can imagine I was just thinking, I'm not quite sure what to do here. I knew that I wasn't going to bend my values or place somebody else in a difficult position, but it was very uncomfortable position to be in. I decided at the time to pretend that I didn't have that information, or just acted none the wiser, because I believed it to be kinder, just not to mention it as a, oh, by the way, I know something but I can't tell you. I just just sort of kept that one under the carpet, so to speak. It didn't come up very fiercely, strongly as direct questioning towards me. I was still uncomfortable about it, but I just thought it was kind of not to offer the fact that I had some helpful information. That's what I decided at the time. It didn't work out too badly, although later that person did discover that I did know something, and I then found myself in a situation where I had to have that discussion, where I felt the need to justify and defend my position through just an honest explanation. Like, I just couldn't tell you, so I wasn't exactly going to bring it up and deliberately present us with an awkward situation. You didn't directly ask me, and so yes, it was a bit of an easier road for me to take, but and you know, we had conversations about what I was learning about that, and I did. I spent a little while reflecting on that afterwards about how that might have gone differently, because this wasn't a particularly dramatic situation, but when I was reflecting on it, you do that thing where you extrapolate it to what if it had been more serious, or if it had been this or Y, and you'd have done X, and then A and B happened, and then what would the conversation you've just had felt like, you know, in that circumstance. So we always reflect on things, don't we, to some degree. And I thought, well, I'll probably just have to find a better way to navigate that if it happens again. And it did. Different person, different situation. And what I'd learned and what I decided to do the second time, and relatively successfully, because it's happened a couple of times since then, I think I'm getting a bit better at it. I'm hoping it's not something that happens very often, but I think in my work it probably does happen a fair bit, and I'm not sure I'll ever be perfect at it because I'm human and I can't be perfect at it, but I'm getting definitely better. The second time I just elected for the absolute approach of just honesty and kindness. Honesty and kindness. If you're in this situation, explain why you're choosing not to tell someone. To do that clearly and firmly and kindly. Explain the values that you're holding and adhering to behind those reasons. So explain the value system of why it's important that you are not going to pass over or disclose and relay this piece of information, because that's a personal approach to giving a bit more of a deeper, more meaningful layer of explanation as to why you're not telling someone something. So I think that's useful. Deliver what you're saying with kindness, really with kindness. And we all love integrity and authenticity and compassion and empathy and sensitivity and understanding. And sometimes we forget a little bit about kindness, and kindness can be elements of all of those, but it's also about not, you don't want to, you don't want to give over that tone of sort of a know-it-all or condescension and being a caretaker of them, and it's a bit patronising, and I think you can explain things in a way that doesn't have that tone to it. I might simply chose to say, yes, I do know something that is probably or may well be very helpful to you, and I appreciate that you would want to know that and evaluate that. It may be helpful to you. My conflict is that there are implications of me telling you that go beyond you and me. It's very challenging, it's very uncomfortable, and all I can do is stand in the corner of my values, because there are lots of other ways that can be really helpful, and I'm very supportive of you, and there's plenty of ways that I can be helpful. And I guess what we do now is just talk about how we navigate forward, and what I can do to help, because there's probably plenty of things I can do to help, and I will do, because I'm really supportive of the situation that you're in. I have some understanding of the situation that you're in. And yeah, it's relatively a simple statement, but I think if you say it with heart and you're authentic as to why you're not disclosing something, it's then relatively difficult for someone to keep pressuring you. Some individuals might still pressure you for information even after you have made a kind but firm and very clear statement. And I guess if that happens, you're in a slightly different situation or a different skill sets, and that would be a different video. And obviously lots of things I do depend sometimes on my mood as to how well I do it.